So over to you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairperson. I'm Member Boyson, and I'm a member of this committee. And good afternoon to all the professionals and the Minister. Thank you.
I'm Thomas Walters, a member of the committee.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Provincial, and I'm standing in for Member Khalid Sheikh.
Good afternoon, Chair, Minister, all members and senior officials. My name is Wendy Kaiser-Philander, and I'm a member of this committee.
Good afternoon, Chair and all members and Minister. I'm Donita Stevens, and I'm a member of this committee.
I see Member Christians was on the platform, and I think he's just trying to be admitted once again. Member Christians, if you are online.
Thank you, Chair. I'm struggling. I don't know why, but Ferland Christians, member of this committee, I hope you can hear me.
I can certainly hear you, and I'll just ask IT to assist you where possible. And then I want to welcome Minister Mania and hand over to you, and also then to introduce the team at the ministry, at the department.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon to yourself and to the members. I'm David Mania, Minister of Education. I'll hand to my head of department, who you all know well, Brent Walters, who will introduce you to the members of the department present.
Chairperson, my name is Brent Walters, HOD for the WCD. Chair, we are gathered in our auditorium here. We have about 12 of us in the auditorium and another 2 members online. I'm going to ask the people in the auditorium to introduce themselves, starting with Mr. Lodiston. We can just walk away. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairperson. Good afternoon, members. My name is Bert from Lodiston, Deputy Director General for Curriculum and Assessment Management.
Morning, members. The Chairperson, my name is Zukisani, BC, Acting Chief Director, Financial Management.
Good afternoon, Chairperson. Good afternoon, members. My name is Lem Lai. I'm the CFO of the department. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairperson, members. Pastron here, Chief Director, People Management Practices.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and member, Rian Eisten, Director of Management Accounting.
Good afternoon, Chairperson. Good afternoon, members. Ignatius Superior, Director Inclusive Educational Specialized School Services.
Good afternoon, Chairperson. Good afternoon, members. Ruth Lucas, Director Early Childhood.
Good afternoon, Chairperson. Good afternoon, members. Lucia Bredingkamp, Acting Chief Director for Assessment and Examinations.
Good afternoon, Chairperson, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Chester, I'm the Deputy Chief Education Specialist for Education Safety Management.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Leslie McLean. I'm the Chief Director of Physical Resources at Education.
Chairperson and members, I'm Spencer Lombard, Acting Deputy Director of the Affairs.
Chairperson, could I ask the members online to introduce themselves, please?
Good afternoon, Chairperson and members. Juan Benjamin, Chief Director, Curriculum Management and Teacher Development.
Good afternoon, members. It's Alan Meyer, Deputy Director General for Branch IDC. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. Sanjay Tansraj, Directorate Knowledge Information Management. You.
Good afternoon, members and Chairperson. I'm Lindelwa Sopotela, Director School Nutrition.
Thank you, Chairperson. That's our delegation. It may hand back to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Brent Walters, for that team. You certainly, you've got the A team with you there today. And so welcome to everyone. I think in terms of apologies, we have an apology from member Sahid, and member Windvogel is his alternate for today. I think the order of the meeting, just to set the context for the meeting and the order of business today, We will be dealing with vote 5, education in the schedule to the Western Cape Appropriation Bill, B2-2025. At this meeting, we will then immediately move forward and hand over to Minister Mania to introduce the budget for the Western Cape Education Department, and members will then have the opportunity after the initial introductions to ask any questions. What I'm proposing to do is that in terms of vote 5, we are dealing with a blue book, and we're dealing with vote 5 there, being starting from page 167. We will then deal with the education vote in sections, and I think if we can then, if Minister Mania can then make the initial introductions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I know that we are pressed for time, so I will make some very brief opening remarks. I mean, it of course gives me great pleasure to introduce the 2025-2026 budget for education, which, as members may know, is roughly a 35.3 billion rand budget, an increase of 5.93% over the adjusted budget last year, and the largest budget in the provincial government. The budget, of course, will enable us to deliver against our vision and to strengthen, of course, foundation learning, to improve learning outcomes, and to expand access to education. I think members may be interested to note some of the allocations to, for example, reading, additional allocations to safe schools, to school feeding, and to special needs. I think also of interest, of course, is the additional allocation for what is now termed the Basic Education Employment Initiative, which will certainly ensure that we are able to employ teaching assistants, which we will sort of utilize to good effect, especially in the foundation phase. I think it is important for members also to understand that we are in a holding pattern, in the sense that members will know there's uncertainty about the national budget, and uncertainty about whether an additional allocation will be made in the next financial year to the education sector. So we are keeping a very careful eye and have a very keen interest in the national budget process as it unfolds during the course of this week. But other than that, Chair, I certainly look forward to the discussion, and my team from the department look forward to taking any questions on this budget from members of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Minister, for that introduction. And with that, I think we can probably move into the first part of the document, and what I'm proposing is that we're dealing with pages 167 through to 178. So in other words, that is the initial overview and review that we have, the outlook, and then also just touching on the summary of receipts, the payments that we are expecting that will be going out and covering up to page 178. I'm not sure, Minister, if you or the head of department wishes to give any introduction there. If not, then I will hand over to members on any questions that they may have.
I think that we should move directly to the questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister. I'm therefore handing over to committee, and I think as Minister has indicated, briefly on the key issues that are being dealt with here, and I think naturally what we do have is a compensation to employee heavy budget, as we would expect in education, because our teachers play such a key role within our budget. And Minister has already indicated the Presidential Youth Employee Initiative that is coming into our budget, and along with the whole aspect of Safe Schools Back on Track, Edu Invest, and so forth. So I'm inviting any questions from the committee. I am not seeing any hands at this stage. I see Member Christians. You may pose your question.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just the initial statement that the Minister made. I just wanted to maybe just elaborate on that. We know, the uncertainty of the national budget, national government budget. Just a question, Minister, if we all heard what Minister Bartman says, that irrespective of what happens, the Western Cape government will not shut down. If we hope that there'll be a deal reached, but if there is no passing of the national budget, how will it impact the department? Maybe that is a question. And another question I want to ask is the Basic Education Employment Initiative, the teacher assistants. And we heard the department talking about it the other day when we spoke to the department, and I think, Minister, you were there. How will that assist the province going forward with, especially when you go to the overcrowding of school? Will it help bringing down class ratios or not? Because I know that the teacher assistants, as I heard and remembered correctly, is also to assist with those learners struggling and allocate, help that when it comes to reading and those type of things. So just that two initial questions, will it improve the ratio, especially the overcrowded classes? That's for now. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Member Christians. I'm going to hand over to Member Windvogel and then Member Stevens for this round of questions.
Thank you so much, Chair. Chair, my first question is also on page 167, budget cuts for 2024-2025. So I want to understand from the department's the department's implemented a drastic 2.5 billion budget cut, including on administration and curriculum and infrastructure. And according to ground up, the Provincial Education Department cut roughly 2,400, if I'm not mistaken, teaching posts in response to budget shortfalls. Does the current budget I want to understand, does the current budget make provision to cover the gap? And I heard that there's new basic employment initiative. So I want to understand, will the teachers that were cut due to the budget cut be recalled or brought into the system through this initiative, or are they going to just call them off? I can allow them to apply for the post for post. And then I want to understand also, I think Member Christian touched on the issue of this issue of ratio. I see that on page 197, table 10.1, a provision was made for an additional 350 educators posts to address system growth. However, that still does not address the current learner-educator ratio from the 33.366 in 2024 to 39.49 for the current year. Already disadvantaged schools, which often lacks resources, are likely to bear the brunt of this deepening educational inequalities in the province. Does the department foresee hiring more teachers to address the LER? And beyond, yeah, I think let me park there for now. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Member Windvogel. Member Stevens.
Thank you, Chair. Between Member Windvogel and Member Christian, they covered some of the questions, but the one question I want to ask is regarding on page 167, under the mission of the WCED. Will there be enough funding to train more specialized teachers to assist in the learners who cannot access special needs schools? There are no more remedial classes, and these learners are causing much frustration between the teachers and the learners. These teachers are not suitably trained and qualified to deal with the learner, and very often the classes are disrupted by their behavior patterns. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Member Stevens. I'm going to hand over to Minister and the department for to deal with that batch of questions.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'll hand to the department in the first instance and then come back to reply at the end of the round.
Thank you very much, Chairperson and Minister. Thank you very much for the questions. So I think we're going to do the questions together. If you can handle a question on the basic employment initiative. And then maybe Leon, does the current budget make adequate provision for teachers brought into the system? You can maybe just talk to that. And then I would address some of the other questions and maybe to indicate if there's anything to leave out. Mr. Mayor and others on the line, you can add in. But I think maybe just to say that there was an introduction from Mr. Krishnan, and he said there is uncertainty of national budget. But I think maybe to say what this brings to us is a level of certainty in terms of this is the money we're gonna get. We saw from the national comments, it leaders to be believed that there should be another application to education late in the year, but that will be the subject of an adjustment estimate if it does come to reality. So I think that's the first thing. Then, so that's just on Member Christian's. Natesh will answer the question on the basic employment initiative. But maybe just to say that on the basic employment initiative, what it does do is it allows teachers to do other things inside the classroom. There are many tasks that are not directly associated with teaching and learning in front of the classroom. They need to be done by teachers, and what these assistants will allow teachers to do is actually just to get on with the teaching and learning. There's a number of functions which I'm sure Mateus can indicate what are the other kinds of things that they do. And there was a question then about does the current budget make adequate provision for teachers in the systems? What I do want to say is we did increase the basket now effectively by 348 educators. And so the question is, does it improve the ratio? It does improve the ratio from where we were, but it doesn't take us back. Doesn't take us back to where we were originally. We cut 2,407 posts, as I think everyone knows. So if you put 358 back, then it still leaves quite a shortfall over 2,000. However, what I do want to indicate, Chairperson, to the members, is that the system works in calendar years. So based on what we had at the end of last year, the system would have adjusted to be able for class sizes, subjects, and all the other things to take into account the revised size Obviously, we had to look at growth, in other words, more learners into the system. And so for that, there were extra costs added into the system. We will start another round with our unions and HUB partners and others of basket of posts processes. And I think those are scheduled for June, July, if I'm correct, Mr. July, scheduled for July. And so then another round will take place as happened last year. I'm going to then hand over to Mr. Connie. He can maybe just talk a little bit about the Basic Employment Initiative, and then Mr. Meyer can just talk a little bit about the special schools, question about the special schools. Thank you.
Chair, members, just in terms of the Basic Employment Initiative, we received the funding that will enable us to basically appoint about 19,000 assistants in the system. And the majority of those are in support of the teachers in the classroom. We've aligned it to the strategies of the department, where the majority of that is allocated to the foundation phase. And each of the foundation phase participating schools will receive education assistant with the main focus on reading, supporting the learners with reading especially. And then there are also other categories that relate to handymen, sport enrichment, care and support for specific schools, and then also ICT support. So it's a combination of various assistance that is supporting schools in the various needs that schools must have, but then also providing the necessary opportunities for those assistants to gain experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cronje. If I could ask Mr. Meyer.
Thank you, HUD. Thank you, HUD. I can hear you. So Chairperson, and thank you for the question, Member Stevens. We do train teachers on an ongoing basis at the CTLI, where we deal with issues of learning support and training for teachers in the mainstream to be able to support learners. We're also looking at a differentiated model of how we're applying specialized needs support, where our full service schools, and we've increased that to 128 schools in the district now. In other words, we have 2 per circuit in every district. And those 2 schools also start acting as resource centers to schools in the particular area. So that is how we are targeting, teachers. Teachers have a resource school close by that they can receive some support from. But also we look at the CTLI, where we do offer training to teachers, at roughly about 500 teachers going through per quarter on ASD, as well as autism spectrum, as well as the school-based support team development, where we have up to about 1,000 people coming through those types of courses. The idea behind it is to give them the basics of learning support, but of course they are not the professionals, but also giving them access to the professionals to provide that kind of support. I'm not sure if my colleague, Mr. Dupree, if you'd like to add anything, but that is from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think Mr. Meyer covered on the main emphasis is on the training of the school-based support teams, making sure that capacitate the educators to support the learners, looking at the key areas of supporting, looking at the specific disabilities that I mentioned, the importance of spectrum disorder, as well as moving into the direction of enabling schools to support learners with profound intellectual disabilities. Approximately 250 educators per quarter being trained specifically to capacitate in schools to support learners with profound intellectual disabilities. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson. Can we have back to you?
Thank you, Chairperson. Just to reiterate the point made in the first instance by the head of department, and that, of course, is yes, there is uncertainty about the national budget, but as the head of department has said, we have a measure of certainty in this budget. We will obviously proceed on the basis of this budget, and then once there is certainty at a national level, there is currently a provisional allocation of 29.1 billion rand allocated to the education sector, assuming that the national budget passes in its current form. We would then presumably receive a portion of that additional allocation either through a special adjustments budget between the passing of the main budget and the ordinary adjustments budget, or possibly receive an additional allocation in the adjustments budget. But at this stage, we simply cannot forecast the outcome of the national budget process. I certainly hope that we do have certainty about our final allocation, particularly from if it includes an additional allocation from national government, before we enter into the discussion about basket of posts with our partners roughly in the middle of this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister and Department. Member Windvogel, I still see your hand has been up. I assume that's possibly a legacy hand. I'm just asking if there's another round of questions that will follow from this. If you can please indicate if anybody wishes to ask a question. I don't know, Member Windvogel, if you still have a question, and I see Member Christians thereafter.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, in the presentation by the WCD on the 6th of February 2025, there was a total of 1,586 unplaced learners. I just want to check, will the current budget make provision for systematic barriers to placements in school, especially in the under-resourced areas? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Member Christians.
Yes, Chair. Mine is just maybe a follow-up of what I've asked initially, and it was answered with the Basic Education Employment Initiative. Now, Chair, I know, I just want to know the question, and it was also said, it's also handyman and all of that. The question is, you have this 19,000 assistant teachers to come and help. I want to know, we had this program before. It's not a new program, a presidential program, and then it was halted, and then it's back again. What is I know the criteria is matriculant, but you want to enhance the system of getting better education to our learners. The question is, will it, I know it will help, but to improve class ratios, learner outcomes, those type of things. I don't know how many of the previous people, teaching assistants, are still at home, but how do the department now, who selects that, who gets what in order to give the children better education? I think you know where I'm going. Now we're getting, again, just learner assistants in, and then it's just cut and they're gone again. I don't know if you can build momentum if you don't have the certainty on that. So it will help, yes, but then it's taken away and then it's back. So I don't know. How does the department keep track that there's at least a better education with these teaching assistants being employed?
Thank you, Member Christian, for that. And I'm going to. I'm not sure if there are any other questions that we should deal with at this stage, because then are there any other questions in this section that we are referring to, pages 167 through to 178? Because then I think if we can ask Minister and HOD then to provide some greater clarity on these areas raised by members Van Vogel and Christians, and then we'll move on to the next section after that. Over to you then, Minister and HOD.
Is there a mute?
Please go ahead, HOD.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Minister and Chairperson. So maybe just to say, just on the figure of 6 February 2025 or 1586, those figures change all the time. And that number is because people are coming into the system all the time, Chairperson. But that number is nowhere near 1586 right now. For grade 1, it's very minimal. Small numbers, very small numbers. They are not placed. But Chair, we can give the latest figure follow up to the committee, to the Chairperson in writing as of today's date. Next, Mr. Mayor, at his fingertips, he may not have it, but I just want to give the committee the assurance that essentially of the learners who have presented themselves in grade 1, grade 8, and grade R, even those who are looking for transfers between certain schools, we have managed through a series of sessions that we've had with our minister to look at that and to make sure that those learners are offered a place. So in the total name, Chairperson, we have placed the learners. But we can give the Chairperson, with your permission, we can give you a specific number as of today's date. We can get it in this meeting. We'll also give it to you. So that's the one thing. I think, and just to answer, and I'm going to ask Matthijs if he can, Matthijs Kranja, you can just help with the answer to this question. Just in terms of perhaps what are the different kinds of things that people are employed through this basic employment initiative? What are the kinds of things that they are doing inside the schools to be able to assist the schools? But I think just to answer Member Christian's question about whether we ensure almost continuity for these young people, the answer is no, because this is a once-off opportunity for someone to get a work experience. And clearly from our point of view, if such a program could be extended, let's say over the whole school year rather than the 10 months, or I think it's 9 months or 10 months, sorry, 6 months that it's on, and that obviously doesn't assist us in the way we'd like it to assist us. What we prefer is if the program is over a calendar year. But the point is, Chairperson, that there is an opportunity for young people, and we're going to turn that opportunity to our advantage as well. But I wonder if Mr. Kranja wants to add anything, please.
Yeah, Chief, members, just with regard to, we're going to focus on the education assistant because that supports the teacher in the classroom with the administration, but in the foundation phase specifically with reading, and in the other various grades also with support to the teacher in the various subjects and grades and phases. But with regard to the foundation phase, extensive training are provided to the assistants, especially in the reading program. Our Chief Director Curriculum Management has got a program that is ready for rollout for those assistants, that they can then provide the support to the teacher in the classroom. And in terms of the selection criteria, past as well as new assistants can enter this phase 5. And then also who can participate this round is teachers who's doing assistants who's doing distance education through your distance learning institutions towards education. They can also apply because that also assists in creating a pipeline to the future. So a lot of support, a lot of emphasis is placed on training of the various groups, especially those who support in the classroom.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Chairperson, in response to the first question, to build on the response from the HOD, I mean, yes, in the 2026 round, we will again be under significant admissions pressure. But this budget will, as the Honourable Member herself has pointed out, allow us to expand our number of posts, and also given the significant additional allocation through the budget facility for infrastructure, it will enable us to quite significantly expand our school build. But of course, it would probably not allow us to expand the system as fast as we would like. But there is scope for expansion, and we hope that that will at least go some way to relieving the admissions pressure, particularly in the 2026 round. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister and HOD. So that, in effect, we then covered pages 167 to 178. We now move on to the next section, which effectively then deals with programs 1 to 4 on pages 179 to 188. And so as indicated, program 1 is administration. Program 2 is public ordinary school education. Program 3 is then independent school subsidies. And program 4 will then be public special school education. So if we've got any questions on those programs, I think we can take those questions now. I'm seeing Member Christian's hand. You can go ahead, Member Christians.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity again. I just want to quickly just say I'm not against the MOT programs. Definitely not. Page 180 talks about the tutors, and then you must have feeding, and on page 183 and so on. The question is, and I don't know if the Minister and HOD looked at this. Now, I know the MOT centers does a work, especially in the poor areas and the MOT centers and so on. Chairperson, we were at Pinelands last week, and educators are given 2 extra mural activities to do as part of their work. Now I'm saying that to say, and I've asked this some time ago, I know the MOT centers doesn't work, but educators surely can play a role, like in Pinelands, in other schools as well, where they can assist with this, and then you have some extra money to put somewhere else. I just want to know, what is the possibility? Did the department investigate the possibility of bringing that into a teacher's program where they can play? I mean, just taking from our days, we had a rugby coach, we had an athletic coach, we had a drama coach, all of those type of things. Is that not looking at saving some money in that regard? So that is just not. I'm not against, because I know exactly what the MOT centers is doing. So I'm not against it, but I'm just asking: did the department investigate maybe of cost-saving measures to deal with that? Chair, that I'm going to ask for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Christians. I did see Member Windvogel's hand was up for a moment, and I see it is down again. So I'm just checking with you, Member Windvogel, if you're covered by Member Christians.
No, thank you, Chair. Mine was just a point of clarity, because I lost, my network was not so good. You were explaining to us. I just wanted to check, where are we now? From which pages? If you can just give me.
Yes, pages 179 to 188. So those are heading with program 1 through to program 4 within the department. So that's what we were dealing with there.
Okay, thank you, Chief. No question.
Can I just throw something in, Chair?
Yes, Member Christians.
Look, we always concerned about the safety in our schools, and I know it's not a WCD primary their function to, but we have the safe schools. The question is, I've mentioned it last week at our meeting. Chairperson, we still have the problem of drugs on our schools, and Bridgetown High was a prime example where 31 learners were expelled. Basically, it was the one group that had the drug trade on the school, and then when an opposing gang came, there was fights on the schools. And you pick it up if you go to other schools that there's still a drug problem at our schools. And I know it's a massive problem. I'm speaking from visiting schools. What can be done when you have these schools? I can give you the names of schools. I'm not going to mention it, but the names of schools. I can't understand that some schools have, they discipline learners, they go through the procedures, and some schools just don't bother because it seems to me that they've given up with this marijuana dacha smoking at schools because when you walk the stairs you can see the packets laying and so on. So I just want to throw that in. I don't know how you're going to get to this problem because that's only one aspect of a problem. The other stuff is still there, and then you have the breaking of schools and all of that. But surely, it's almost like we've lost the fight in certain schools. Certain schools, I mean, the principals and they are phenomenal. In certain schools, things are happening, and I'm not mentioning the names. So if the department can just say, how do they follow up on these matters, especially the Bridgetown school that was in the news all the time? Thank you.
Thank you, Member Christians. We then have Member Stevens and then Member Walters.
Thank you, Chair. On the point of Member Christian's question, what about more walking buses? I think if there's more walking buses visible and sufficient aid to provide them to walk learners to school and who pass through dangerous areas to get to school, seeing that there's no budget for this. And we all know bullying is the reality, and we do not have the volunteer programs at schools where they should receive a stipend to help to ensure the safety and security of the learners, especially like Member Christian said, at those certain schools, and there is quite a lot that we can mention, but we're not going to go there now. But I think we really need to look into those walking buses that can also prevent the bullying issue that are at most of our schools. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Stevens. Over to you, Member Walters.
Thank you very much, Chair. It's also on the point that Member Christians made. There is, and it happens to be my committee as well, and it's something that's been discussed there as well. Just two suggestions that perhaps we also want to take up as recommendations, but with the memorandum of understanding that is being set with or being agreed to and being developed between the national government, provincial government, the City of Cape Town, and hopefully other municipalities as well, it might be worthwhile to also have a schools component worked into it, where I think perhaps the education department needs to be involved. And I also think it's worthwhile checking whether the safety plans at every school incorporates a specific category in affected schools as to how to deal with gangsterism. It is something that in some respects fall outside of this department, but obviously it's part of the solution. And I would like to hear what the response is. And Chair, perhaps we want to pick that up as recommendations from the committee as well.
Thank you, Member Walters. I think if I can, I don't see any further questions there, so I'm going to be handing over to Minister and to HOD.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. We will try and answer the questions. Just in terms of the issue of the member mentioned, Mr. Krishna mentioned programs at finance that were given. Every teacher must take 2 extra activities. And he asked whether we can't put the money somewhere else, whether putting it into mod coaches and so on. But I think that the challenge here, Chairperson, is that in the schooling system, we have schools who are collecting fees from parents. And from these fees, they were able to pay for many extra activities through these fees. And so what you find then is we give a basic subsidy for their teachers and the textbooks and everything else. And they manage through those fees to actually then have a whole lot of other activities. Finance would be one of those schools that would be able to do that. And so then they have coaches and they have many other activities. So what the other program is trying to do is to look at the schools that don't have the opportunity and then try and put coaches inside these schools for various sports. And obviously, Mr. Mayor can maybe just talk about the relationship we have with DCAS in relation to the mod coaches and some of the work that they are doing. And then Mr. Krishnan is invited to maybe ask a follow-up question if he wishes to, if we don't satisfy the the kind of intention that they had with that question. Then as far as the safety at our schools are concerned, we do have an issue, Chairperson, with learner discipline and behavior. We see that through the expulsion matters. My lens, Chairperson, as a dipstick, is through the expulsion matters that land on my table. They do involve drugs, they involve many other things, violence and so on. Sometimes even gun violence, assault on educators, very many things. I think part of what we have to do inside in this situation is that schools do have their own protocols and their own systems to deal with discipline. They deal with discipline in a certain way, and the more extreme methods find their way to the department. And then there's a committee of 5 people who basically from Mr. Mayor's unit who sit and look at each case and then make a recommendation to the department whether the learner should be expelled, whether the learner should be suspended, whether there's alternative sanctions for the learner, whether we let the district-based teams assist the learner with counseling and other measures. So it's quite a sophisticated area of work. Do I ever see drugs in schools? And this is a very difficult thing to manage because children come to school every day. You can't search learners, every learner, you have to manage that. And so I think schools have their own code of discipline that they would put out for that the parent signs that the learner has to adhere to. And when the learners step outside of that, then obviously the school will have disciplinary hearings and there will be consequences for learners. Mr. Mayor, you're free to add anything I have left out there. I think then also that question, that answer is probably linked to a comment about how to deal with gangsterism and safety plans that was mentioned by Member Walters. I think it's quite a difficult thing for the schooling system, Chairperson. I just want to say this, that the schooling, what happens in the schools reflects what's happening outside of the schools. But we are not police, neither are we prison guards. We are, as an education system, educators. So it becomes quite hard for the educators to deal with it. And the only tool we have at our disposal is a disciplinary code of conduct, or the code of conduct of all schools, and when learners translate that code of conduct, we then take action, I do believe, as a system in the necessary way. And I know there are many cases that come through where we do expel learners if the offense is serious enough. We've got to also balance that against, let's just say, restorative justice. When you're trying to build learners, they are young people. They will do things that are experimental. They will try things and push boundaries. So you've got to distinguish between what is just growing up and what is actually criminality. And as I mentioned, some of the kinds of cases where we can't tolerate that in our system, and then we do deal with those things. I think then lastly, maybe just to speak about the idea of the walking buses. I'm sure Mr. Mayor and others can perhaps comment more effectively on that, but it is one of the suggestions that we can take into account. Just the ability to organize that as the education department is limited. That is all I wish to say on that matter. But can I have maybe to Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor, is there anything you wish to add? Please do so.
Yes, thank you very much, HOD. Perhaps just to come back to Member Christian's question around, the MOD program. Remember, the MOD program is not only focused on sport, it's also on cultural activities as well. And I must say, we had a wonderful program last year at the Artscape, where we had all our various centers, MOD centers, coming and presenting the talent of our learners. And it was quite phenomenal to see, the kind of talent that exists within our schools that is being nurtured via the MOD program at various points. I agree with you that we need to find a way that we could, get our teachers to play a lot more significant role within the sports program as well as the after-school program at schools. And it's definitely something we will take up with our HR component, because in the past, Member Christians, when you applied for a teaching post, you had to indicate what was your sporting code you offered and which extramural activity you offered. And that was included on the application form. And it became part of, the interview, in terms of, so which sport are you going to do? Which cultural activity are you going to do? And I think those are important, a very important question that we perhaps need to look at with our HR component and see if we could bring that back so that every teacher that then applies for a post actually has to indicate, on that form when they're applying for a position, what is the sports code that they are going to offer at the school. As the HOD has mentioned, the issue around drugs is a reality in a large number of our schools. We have, various resources that we make available to schools, in terms of detection, as well as referral of learners who have started with the abuse of a particular substance. And we do a lot of training around, substance abuse within our schools. So we capacitate schools to deal with learners who are under the influence or at risk, of using substances. We also include basic information on identifying learners under the influence of drugs, just to capacitate teachers to pick that up early, because learners could harm themselves or other learners at the school if a teacher is not aware of what to look for if a learner is under the influence of drugs. So we also capacitate our teachers to do the 5-panel drug test at schools. It's training we provide on an ongoing basis. We also provide the test panels to the school that they can exercise at any time. We also encourage search and seizures at school. And so with the City of Cape Town, whether it's law enforcement or Metro Police or South African Police Service, we invite them to assist the school to do a search and seizure at the school. And whatever drugs are found are then dealt with in terms of the school's code of conduct, particularly in cases where learners have a big supply of drug, which means that they are selling. It's not for use only. Those cases are then definitely treated differently to, for example, a person just having a small amount compared to somebody who has quite a bit that was purpose of selling and dealing in drugs. And so there's a different category around that. So we do that search and seizures on a regular basis. This remains an item on the Prof Joints for School Safety subcommittee of the Prof Joints, where this discussion around drugs has not really come off the agenda and will continue to stay on it, I think, because of what we're seeing in communities at large. I think the issue of drugs, particularly in certain pockets within the Western Cape, has seen an explosion, and with that has come the gang activity as well. So in an area like Lotus River, for example, the increase in the number of shootings over the past few weeks can be directly linked to the sale of drugs, within those particular areas as well. And I think, as part of our discussions in the Prof Joints, as well as in the School Safety Subcommittee, we do raise these issues with the security stakeholders, because technically they are the ones that must deal with that. As the HOD indicated previously, we are teachers by our nature and not necessarily drug enforcers, when we do find that. In terms of the school safety plans, Member Walters Yes, we do include a support to school on how to deal with gang activity at a school. So within the safety plan, there would be guidance to a school as to what they would need to do in terms of identification of gangs and how they would manage the gangs at the school. Because a lot of the times it is not necessarily only the gang at the school, it's the external members of the gang that also come onto the school premises and causes chaos, at many of our schools. And again, it is an issue we pick up in the community, in the local community. We call in parents with learners who are on drugs. We call in parents whose children are involved in gangs. They just don't pitch. They just don't come to school. They're not prepared to present themselves because they don't want to, stand and answer for their behavior of their children at the school and on the school premises and the safety and how it impacts on the safety of other learners. Member Stevens, we had the walking buses implemented a few years ago. It was run from the Department of POX, the Police Oversight Committee. That department ran it as community safety at the time. And I think it was MEC Plato that was very much involved in that. And when he left for the city, he then took the program there and they then ran it from a city perspective to provide the support. So within the WCD, we do not have the expertise in managing that program. It always starts off very well, Member Stevens. Everybody volunteers. And then once we have this batch of volunteers, it very quickly becomes a conversation about, so where's the stipend? And so volunteer as a concept within South Africa has never really realized in a way that we actually, have a program that remains a volunteer program. And the same happened with the walking bus. Started wanting the stipend and withdrew services and etc., refused to accompany learners, etc. And then the program died, within our schools. But we prepared to take a conversation with parties who are interested in helping us with that. And we will definitely, have our Safe Schools team looking at that. Colleagues, I just want to speak on the matter of the bullying. It is a very serious matter that applies, across the school spectrum. So whether it is an extremely rich school or a very poor school, bullying is happening across across the spectrum of that. And so it's regarded as serious misconduct, in terms of the national guidelines and the regulations that are published, in terms of South African School Act. And so we've also published extensive guidelines online, on managing discipline at schools, including dealing specifically with bullying. And so we provide extramural youth development programs to build capacity for positive behavior, addressing aggressive and violent behavior, including bullying. And then, of course, learners who experience bullying at school can also call the Safe Schools call center on our toll-free number, for assistance. And then we do go in, we do take our social workers, our psychologists, our learning support, staff into the school to provide not only support to the victim, but also to the perpetrator. And then we take a general approach and we'll cover a segment or a sector of the school, to deal with that particular issue. For example, if it's 2 grade 9 learners that are involved, there's a perpetrator and there's a victim, we will deal with the grade 9 batch as a whole, and not just those 2 individuals, but we'll actually cover that full grade in terms of, putting in measures to talk about peer counseling, and access to our psychologists, etc. And then, through all of this, we always look at the restorative code of conduct, one that looks at even building and supporting the perpetrator, because, we cannot also just destine a child for a life outside of school for one misdemeanor. And so those are the kind of strategies that we would put in place around that as well. It starts by the school identifying their safety risk. They develop a school safety plan. That plan becomes their own little document that guides how they will deal with various issues at the school. And so therefore we impress upon schools to have that safety plan in place so that, if anything happens, they actually have a quick reference guide of how to deal with that. We've made it, and we in the process of making it an online document, which will allow us to see very quickly where there's a sudden increase in activity. Because part of that, the risk identification, we say, is there shooting happening in the area, for example? and schools would be able to capture that fairly quickly, and we will then be able to get a picture of what that looks like, which areas are affected, and then get the necessary services to be deployed to that area, to bring calm to that area as well. So that's all in the plan of what we're wanting to achieve within the Safe Schools component. But Chairperson, I think that is the questions that's been asked and our response at this point. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. I see Minister Mania, and then we've got a couple of hands thereafter.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think the proposal or recommendation or suggestion made by the Honourable Thomas Walters to look at possibly how a schools component might be included in the MOU between the SAPS and the City of Cape Town and other law enforcement bodies, I think merits some consideration, and we will certainly do that. I also would like to, in response to the Honourable Furlong Christians, make the point that we are certainly as a department starting to work more closely than ever before with DCAS on extending sport to our schools, and certainly a first version of that was, as you saw, the wonderful shared facility at Bastion Secondary School in Beaufort West. On the question of safety, I would urge the honourable member, if he is visiting a school, obviously in his capacity as an MPL and not as part of a committee, if he is on one of those oversight visits, which I know that he does from time to time, if there are matters of particular concern at a school, please raise them with me so that we can get the department to intervene as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. I see Member Christian's hand, and then Member Van Vogel, and I assume at this stage these are the concluding questions on this section up to page 188, and we'll be moving on to the programs from 5 onwards thereafter, which is pages 189 to 198. You can go ahead, Member Christians.
Thank you, Chairperson. Yes, I want to tell the Minister, I was so inspired by Pinelands High School. I thought I want to visit a few schools to see, how can they improve in certain aspects. Pinelands is really a gem. I don't think they get all the accolades and credit in the media, but sure, we were so impressed. So, if they can do it and we can get, some assistance, but I'm doing my own thing just to try to help you. I was so inspired, Minister, that's why I'm doing it.
Well, Chairperson, could I say that, if the Honourable Christians or indeed any other member of the committee visit a school and they are inspired, they're also welcome to write a letter and draw that to my attention. That would certainly be a very welcome letter, and one that I don't receive often enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. We'll do that. Chairperson, let me just ask 2 more questions in this section. If I look at sub-program 2.4 and I look at the National School Nutrition Program, I'm a bit concerned. I think the numbers from national does not move. I don't see more money coming from national, meaning that the province needs to give more money when it comes to school nutrition. And with our influx of learners, it's a major concern. So if the department can just answer, if I'm right, if I look at my figures of last year, and I don't think there's a big adjustment, or if any, from national school nutrition program, and that put even more strain on the department. How are they going to deal with that going forward? And then just if you go to independent schools, subsidies. Now we know that's not the lavish schools that get it, these schools that's struggling. The question is, and I know that, you know, the increase in the expenditure is basically because of learner growth. What is the appetite for these schools, you know, and do they help with the system where our public order schools, you know, do they help? Do they take the burden off? If you look at the investment that you are making in these independent school subsidies, is it value for money? And you know, does it help going forward? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Christians. Member Windvogel.
Yes, Chair. My question, I just wanted to check on the nutrition side. We all know is most of our schools do have land, vacant land. Do you have a type of program where you motivate schools to use it, to use the land for vegetable gardens? Because it can have numerous benefits, food security, yeah, and it, yeah. So I just want to check, do you at least motivate those schools to use those vacant land? Then secondly, Chair, just a comment on safety and security. I think the Minister and Mr. Mayor in the HOD perhaps also touched on the issue. And one thing that I know that the schools in the department alone cannot address the complex issue when it comes to bullying and safety. It requires collaboration effort from the parents, the caregivers, the teachers, school staff, community organizations, leaders, local authorities and government agencies, students themselves. So it's a whole of society approach that will actually ensure that we can create a safer and more supportive environment for all students. Then lastly, Chair, it's just a comment on safety and bullying. Then the infrastructure, I think, I just want, because we do have the Minister and the HOD and the managers in one house today, it's a concern when you do your oversight visits and you get to schools and you can see here something is going to happen soon. I'm using Bontebo Primary School in Swellendam as an example. The cracks in the building, the stairs, perhaps I'm not an expert, but when you look with your bare eyes, you will see, hey, something is going to happen soon here. Do you have something in place that really look at those safety? Is there a process at the building, the infrastructure, the safety of our students when it comes to that? Then lastly, Chair, on page 197, table 10.1, personnel numbers and cost. It's a concerning factor, Chair. The Western Cape has an estimated average annual growth rate of 1.8. If I'm not mistaken, in 2022, around the year 2011 to 2022. While the total personnel numbers increased from 43 to 44 over the years. So a marginal 0.3 annual. What was interesting is a professor in the economic department at Stellenbosch University has previously highlighted the risk of a long-term damage to the province human capital. When he mentioned that when class size increase and resources are stretched, the quality of education declines. And this not only impacts individual learners, but also has a ripple effect on the broader economy as poorly educated forces struggle to compete in an increasingly knowledge-driven world. So the department really needs, and it comes to the fact that we need qualified educators to really to assist our learners to get the best education as possible. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much there. I see Member Van Voorgel, I'm very pleased that you've actually moved into the next section of pages 189 through to 198, and you know that then deals with at 197, 198, as you've indicated there, dealing with the personnel numbers and so forth. So if there are any members there or members who have any questions on those pages, they are welcome to put their hands up there. But I think I'm going to just ask Minister and HOD to deal with these last questions that we've just had from Member Christians and Member Van Voorgel.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you for the questions. Maybe to just indicate on the NSNP, the increase by 8 million, 1.5%. So that is below inflation. So clearly, the point that was made by Member Christian is taken into account. I think it's a valid point. We have increased the enough. Obviously, as you see, Chairperson, this area is important because we see the numbers of learners increasing to be fed. And so this is an important area, and really we need to keep an eye on that. I think then just to deal with the independent school, and the question was, does it help going forward? The independent schools do help because they assisted to take pressure off the public system. The public system is obviously growing. You, of course, would know that, Chairperson, and the members. And so with independent schools, they take the pressure off the system at a fraction of the cost of what it costs us to put a learning in the public school. So from a broad budget management point of view, that makes economic sense for us to basically support independent schooling, because you can get to a point where what it allows you to do, it frees up resources to spend on the public school system, which is obviously sorely needed. Then I would ask Mr. Mayor, perhaps he can maybe just talk a little bit about the vegetable gardens. For Mr. Mayor, if my memory serves me correctly, there are vegetable gardens that some of the schools do run. Mr. Mayor, if I can ask you to maybe talk about that, please, if you can.
Thank you.
You want to talk about it now? Then okay, talk first, Mr. Mayor, and I'll go on. You can go ahead,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor.
Thank you, HOD. Thank you, Member Van Voorgel, for the question. Yes, we have 590 gardens we have gardens at 590 schools currently, and we have about 75 gardeners that are paid via EPWP, and then the WCED then helps also with a stipend for gardeners. About 147 are paid via a stipend via the WCED. So we have about 218 gardeners in the program, and there's no funding from DBE for this. And it's a project that we run, and I must say we're very proud of the fact that we've won first place for gardens now probably the past 3, 4, 5 years. And so a small school like Steenberg's Cove in the West Coast District, for example, won the national award. We've had a school up far north in Vredendal area also. I think it's Elizabethfontein. I'm not sure, but we had a school very far north that also won the national competition. And so it's a competition our schools take very seriously, not only because of the competition and the possibility of winning, a kind of tunnel that they then plant more vegetables in, but also because they supplement the feeding of the learners with the produce they grow with at the school. So, for example, we have a school out in the Grabo area that also has its own cattle, and learners actually get to work with the cattle at the school. The Rus Futura is a school that's in that area that I'm referring to, but they also have shelters where they grow a variety of produce that they actually sell to the local SPAR. So they produce dhania, for example, or coriander, some people call it, and they package it for SPAR, and then SPAR sells the product and pays the school for that. They also grow green peppers and chilies, etc., that are packaged by the school for the market. and it's sold at the SPAR stores, and the school gets a return on it as well. So besides it being a little bit of a money spinner in some schools, it supplements the feeding of the learners. And as the HOD has indicated, something that's starting to show a little bit more in our schools now is the request from more learners at a school to be fed. So in the past, it was, we had X number at a school, but now we're starting to see that even at a school, the number of learners presenting to be fed is increasing. So it's not only new schools that are coming on that need to be fed, it's within existing schools as well that there's an additional demand for extra feeding at the school. I also just want to say that yes, we do need some additional funding, hopefully from national, around the feeding of learners. But I think it's an indicator of the economics within the country, that as the opportunities for gainful employment decrease, so more parents and more learners are having to rely on feeding at the school in order to have some sustenance on a daily basis. And so it's a program we run. We value this program significantly within our organization to ensure that learners get fed, because I mean, the old saying that you can't feed a hungry child, is so true. I just mentioned it recently in a meeting. I said that when you, as a teacher, you see that child at 9 o'clock in the morning and their eyes glaze over, not because they're tired, but because they are extremely hungry, it's not a sight that any teacher, easily looks past. And I think, on that basis, this feeding of learners is something we really take very seriously. We really commit a lot of time and a lot of effort in the feeding program to ensure that learners do get something to eat. So member, Chairperson, I think those are the questions that have been asked, and I've tried to respond to all of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, Chairperson, if I may, with your permission, there's just two more questions before we go to Minister. So one of them is for Ms. McLean. If she can maybe just address the safety infrastructure. How do you deal with that? What are the processes? How do schools identify things, and how do we actually get over the hill on this one? Thank you, Ms. McLean.
Thanks, SG. Yeah, so we do have work inspectors in each district, and we try to get them to visit all schools to identify any safety risks that do exist. But clear, I mean, there are many schools and we don't get around to all of them. So if there are risks and the school is aware of it, then we ask them to report it on CMIS, and the response has been quite fast. We'll send somebody out the next day to assess the damage, assess the condition of the building, make it safe and cordon off if necessary, and then respond by doing the repairs that are required. So we can't get around to each school. There has been a backlog on the preventative maintenance, which leads to buildings actually deteriorating, their condition deteriorating. And so we ask schools to report it on the CMIS platform, and we'll respond immediately. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. McLean. And Chairperson, there was another question about page 197, and specifically looking at public ordinary schools and the increase of 0.3% from 2021 to 23-24 in the number of educators we put in public ordinary schools. But Chairperson, I just want to remind the committee that we, in fact, in the last 4 years, besides last year, increased the basket over time. Every year, a couple of hundred, sometimes 500, etc., over time. Unfortunately, I think the committee is very aware that in the 2023-24 year, there was an in-year budget cut, which is unprecedented. In the corporate memory of people in this department, Chairperson, some of them have been here very long, we can't remember that ever having been done. So that caused us to have to relook at our situation, and of course that was carried over into the 24-25 financial year, and then of course we had the reduction in the basket of posts. That explains why that is only 0.3%. I thought I should just add that, Chairperson. Thank you very much, Chairperson. I can hand back to Minister.
Thank you very much. A couple of points. I mean, first, in response to the Honourable Furlong Christians, I mean, I think he really identifies a very crucial issue, and that is the additional funding which the province is putting into top up school feeding, both to compensate for food price inflation, but also to expand the number of learners that we are feeding. And I think in the next financial year, we will be putting in as much as an additional 67 million rand on top of the conditional grant provided by national government for the national school feeding scheme. I really do think that there is a very good case, in fact, to expand our network of independent schools, precisely because they are delivering on average excellent results, often above provincial averages, and precisely because they do, in most cases, serve learners who come from poor communities. And so certainly a focus area going forward will be how do we expand the number of subsidized independent schools in our province. Bear in mind that only about 5.4% of our total enrollment in our province is in independent schools, compared to about 12% in Gauteng. Certainly then, on the whole question of infrastructure, I would appeal to the Honourable Rachel Windvogel, if she does, if she is visiting a school and infrastructure challenges are brought to her attention, please in the first instance check with the principal whether the matter has been logged on CMIS. You might want to inquire about whether the matter has been logged, when it was logged, and then certainly if you are concerned, if you do feel in your own words that something is going to happen, please urgently refer that matter to my office so that I can take it up with the department. And then finally, any member of the committee who's interested in the food garden, if you like, issue. Certainly, when I was up in Beaufort West, I visited Restvale Primary School, which has what they call an Olive of Hope project, where they are planting or have already planted olive trees, and I think they are going to significantly expand their orchard of olive trees, and they as a school are producing olive oil, which is a great additional revenue stream to the school. And I would think that Restvale Primary School is probably a standout school when it comes to food gardens in our province. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, HOD and team. I see Member Christian's hand, and we are now dealing with our pages, the last section before we get into annexures from pages 189 to 198. If there are any questions there, and I'm going to hand over to Member Christians to pose his question.
Thank you, Chairperson. And it's very encouraging what the Minister has just highlighted about the independent schools and how to expand that, and the pass rate, and doing excellent, and that is why I asked the question. When you make that investment, so there's definitely opportunity to even improve education by just this margin of expanding independent schools. So thank you for that answer. I think that is what I wanted to know. Chairperson, just on page 190, if we look at the ECDs, and I want to ask this question because bulk of your learners, your grade R learners, is in public schools, but there's still learners at the childhood development centers, the question there is there an intention to migrate those learners from the early childhood development centers to public schools, the grade R learners? Because I know there's the pre-grade R learners that is also there at the childhood development centers. But I'm talking about migrating them. One, is there that thinking by the department? And the second question is, if you look at the education they receive under the public schools, the grade R learners, and in the ECDs, the grade R, do they get the same education? Can you max it and say they're getting the same opportunity? I know there's a lot invested in human resource, as I can see, to get them up to the level. But I don't know, maybe the department can tell us, because there's also, a feeling that you are better off if you're in a public school grade R as to early childhood development. So if the department can just answer me on that, because we do not want to, let a child feel inferior. And I know it's maybe classrooms and all of that, but is there at least a plan to migrate that from the one to the other? Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Member Christian. I'm not seeing any further hands, so I'm going to hand over to department there.
Minister. Maybe I just sorry.
Go ahead, HOD.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm going to ask Ms. Lucas to talk to the difference between grade R in public schools and grade R in early childhood development centers. However, the caution that I do want to indicate to the committee is that grade R is made compulsory, and obviously if we're going to transition from in early childhood centers, but I'm just reflecting on the question that was asked. Are we going to move grade R in early childhood centers to public schools? Chairperson, that's a function of budget and resources. For us to be able to do it, it's not about whether we have an intention and whether we think it's a good idea. We probably think it's a good idea. It comes down to, do we have the resources? And the answer is no. We don't have the resources. So I think that is in short an answer that you are restricted by vision, is restricted by the envelope of what is actually being given to us to be able to do that. But I'm sure that Ms. Lucas can talk a little bit about the differences between the two and the various programs that are in place and the various checks and balances that ECD has put in place to make sure that children are receiving quality education in the centers and in the grade R in public schools. Thank you, Ms. Lucas.
Yes, the question here around the number of grade R's in public ordinary schools, yes, it is quite high in terms of an 83% coverage within our public ordinary schools. We have registered grade R's with the WCED, and those are the ones that are on CMIS that we can control in terms of the curriculum, in terms of funding to these centers. However, there is a cohort, and we agree that grade R should be at the public ordinary school. However, our SJ has mentioned about the resources and the budgetary constraints. In terms of the curriculum that is offered, yes, in public ordinary schools, we offer quite a wide curriculum, but all of the children in a grade R class that is registered with the WCED receives the CAPS curriculum. So in that aspect, all of them are exposed to the same curriculum. It is the additional programs, however, also budget related, that is we're not able to give to all of our grade R's, and it is there that I think the thinking that you have expressed comes from. However, our 343 registered ECD centers that offer grade R have done exceptionally well over the years, and those children have managed to be assimilated and monitored to go into grade 1. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Back to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just on this matter, of course, the possible additional allocation to education, which, as we've said, would come through either a special adjustments budget or indeed the adjustments budget in the normal course in November, is set to include a component which is obviously aimed at relieving COE pressure, but also pressure in the ECD space. And it's precisely for that reason that we are watching the national budget process with so much interest. But of course, you know, what will transpire will become, I think, a little more clear during the coming week as the National Assembly deliberates on the national budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. I see Member Christian's hand is still up. I'm beginning to get the sense that we've getting to the sort of tail end of our questions, and I would sort of like to give a last call then now for any questions before we then start the wrapping up process. And before we do that, we will then just be checking on if there are any members of the public with us today and if they may have any questions. And then after that, we can then move into closing remarks. So I see Member Christians. I'm not sure if there are any other members who have some last questions to ask. Over to you, Member Christians.
No, thank you, Chair. And it's still the same sentiments I want to share, and I think it was shared. You know, I am extremely concerned, and I know what the HOD said. It's budgetary concerns, but at least, you know, if there's somehow, sometime, at least a vision to see that our ECD grade odd learners is integrated into the public schools, and I know there's no budget for that, but the answer was also given. They're doing the 343 ECDs is doing exceptionally well, but I don't believe that they're getting the same education. I believe that the children at the public ordinary schools are getting better education than the ECDs, and it's concerning to me. I know the budgetary concerns, but that integration, even if it happens over a number of years, that should be one of the goals of the WCED chairperson. I just want to emphasize that point. Thank you.
Thank you, and from our side, noted.
Chairperson, we can't hear you.
Sorry, I've muted myself there. I think thank you there, Member Christians. Yeah, I think that I'm not seeing any other hands from other members. I don't know if there's any a final comment there on your last point that you've raised, Member Christians.
Chairperson, the Minister has answered that one.
Okay, no, I think he's answered that. I'm just also looking here to Procedural Officer, to Mr. Kutsia, who's been looking after us today in while Ms. Hassan Musa is away. If there are any members of the public on the platform, and if there are any questions that they wish to raise, as this is also a public hearing.
Thank you, Chairperson. No, I've got no indication of any members of the public that's on the platform.
Okay, thanks very much for that. And then I think we can then start moving into closing comments then from the MEC and from the HOD. I think it's been a useful discussion today, and I think I'd already like to express my thanks for what additional information we received today, in addition to the budget as has been set out before us. Minister Mania and HOD.
Thank you, Chairperson. Any closing remarks from our head of department?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. No, I think I just wanted to say thank you for the spirit of the conversation. It's clear to me that the committee has the interest of the learners at heart, and clearly education is everyone's business. So we do expect the questions and the commitment from our team side to make certain that in the end we do the best that we can with the resources that we've been given to have quality education for every learner, in every classroom, in every school in the province. Thank you very much. Back to you, Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson. To you and to members of the committee, thank you for your questions and inputs. We'll certainly, I think there have also been some very good suggestions and recommendations which we'll take on board, and we certainly look forward to the debate on our vote during the course of next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister and HOD. Certainly, I must say I felt relatively relieved to the extent that we had seen an increase of 5.93% in the budget for this year, but fully appreciate that 5.93 still remains a position that is very tight in terms of a very large department, and all of the major challenges and the work that this Department of Education is doing for us in the Western Cape. So I think I want to thank the Minister and thank the HOD and the departmental officials and the entire department for the work that they have done in putting together this budget so that we are able to have a sustainable business case going forward, even though we would have liked some more funding, but I think we fully understand the difficult circumstances that we are working in. So I think that then brings us to the conclusion of the engagement with the department, and we are then able to release the department, release the minister, because I'm sure they still have a little bit of time on the last day of this financial year, probably to go and do some last minute important items and to deal with those before the close of the financial year. So thank you very much for being with us today, and we really appreciate the work that you are doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Chairperson and members.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Colleagues, it looks like we are now down to the complement of the committee that is with us today, and I think we can then accordingly move forward to meeting resolutions or any requests for information and recommendations to be undertaken. I think there are a few of the items that we discussed today that we could probably then turn into some future engagements, and this whole aspect of safety at schools, on how we can possibly then ask department to unpack more of that as we go forward at one of our future sessions. But I think just handing over to committee then to deal with this report that has been before us in terms of the vote 5, the education in the schedule to the Western Cape Appropriation Bill. If we've got any resolutions that we need to take forward there. Member Kaiser-Philander, and then
Chair,
Member Christians.
Chair, thank you very much, Chair. I hear you saying about the resolutions and recommendations. Are we first going to deal with the support or otherwise for the respective vote and then go over to resolutions?
Yes, I think we can deal with the support first of all, and then we can then pick up on any resolutions or recommendations or thoughts flowing out of the discussion that we've had today.
Then may I proceed with your permission, Chair?
You may.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chair, having dissected this budget vote 5 and the various funding allocated to the different programs, Chairperson, I think that this budget is a commitment to building a future where every learner indeed has access to quality education, Chairperson. I think also that every community benefits from essential services and every resident has the opportunity to thrive. Chairperson, thus, on behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I wish to support this budget vote as it prioritizes the needs accordingly. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Kaiser-Philander. I then see Member Christians, then Member Walters, then Member Stevens.
Chair, I want to support Member Kaiser-Philander to support the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Christians. We then move on to Member Walters.
Chair, I also put my hand up to second the proposal.
Thank you. Then we have Member Stevens.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'll also support the budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Member Bentworgel. You may go ahead, maybe Member Bentworgel.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Am I audible, Chair?
Yes, you're audible.
Yes, the African National Congress wishes to make use of the minority view in line with Rule 19. Means that we are not supporting this budget. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Bentworgel. We note your comments there. I'm just checking any other views on that. So I think that then deals with those aspects. Member Boyson, or you have any comments?
Chairperson, I support the stance of the DA in adopting this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I think we then, I'm just going to hand over to Procedural Officer, whether we are covered there in what we are trying to achieve here today.
There we go. Yes, Chairperson, that's fine. If you want me, then I could read the report into for record purposes.
Yes, I think if you could do that, that would be great.
So it will be then the committee report. Report of the Standing Committee on Education on Vote 5, Education in the Schedule to the Western Cape Appropriation Bill B2 2025, dated 31 March 2025 as follows. The Standing Committee on Education, having considered the subject of Vote 5 Education in the schedule to the Western Cape Appropriation Bill B2 2025, referred to it in accordance with Standing Rule 188, reports that it supports the vote. In accordance with Standing Rule 90, the African National Congress expressed their minority view that they do not support the vote.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Kutsia. I think, are we in agreement that that is a fair reflection of the views?
Support the
Yes,
adoption
Chair.
of the report, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Member Kaiser Palanda. I do see hands up. I assume those are legacy hands from Member Christian and Member Van Voorgel.
No, Chair, I want to just make a resolution or two.
That is good. You can go ahead.
Chair, just two things that I really want us maybe just to consider. I am, like I said earlier, I'm very concerned about the education that the 343 ECD grade R learners are receiving against the public schools grade R learners. If we can maybe just get whenever the department to come and give us that those 343 learners in the East, not learners, ECD centers, that there is, what is the difference between the two and how are they managing that? Because it's the department's responsibility, ECDs. And secondly, Chair, I'm also concerned about the feeding scheme that the department province must contribute 67 million to that, and I don't know if we that budget is just increasing and national government is not increasing that much in order to feed our learners. So that for me is also maybe a red light. I don't know. We can look at that. And maybe just lastly, I know we spoke about it in the committee about this teacher assistance system that's going to help with various various things. But I would really want to see, I don't know how we're going to get these overcrowded classrooms of 65 and almost 70. Isn't there something, and I'm talking about Phoenix High School in Mannenberg, 65 to 70 in a classroom. I mean, it's unacceptable. So I don't know. I'm throwing that out here to say, how can this teacher assistants assist to reduce these class numbers? It's a major concern. Thank you, Chair.
Right. I think I'm just also going to be trying to get the sense of the meeting as such. I think the ECD centers, and we can flesh out the nature of what that presentation can be, that we get that from the WCED to understand how we can improve that quality of education. Also, this whole aspect of the feeding schemes, as you've indicated, on how to get possibly to more sustainability and greater levels of support there in dealing with feeding schemes. And then I think also, what you've now mentioned is the whole aspect of overcrowding and how we can look to trying to tackle that and improve that level of situation. I also see that Member Stevens and Member Walters also have their hand up. I know Member Walters was indicating during the questioning there that we possibly look at that whole aspect of the MOU, and to the extent that we can perhaps just touch that on a whole briefing on dealing with the state of safety at schools, and perhaps just get a greater understanding of what the WCED's strategy is in countering the various challenges that they have in terms of discipline, behavior, bullying, walking buses and safety plans and so forth. So I'm going to be passing on to Member Stevens and Member Walters there for further comment, and also comments on those that you have made, Member Christians.
Thank you, Chair. Member Christian did touch on the food security. That is still a severe problem within some schools, and that not all schools have feeding schemes. And as we believe that no hungry child can learn at a school, so I think the department also needs to look into the schools that's not on the feeding scheme, that they can also support those schools. And then on the special schools, the special learners, that they must also look into that, because there's only 2 special schools for special children in the metro. And some of the children, when they get diagnosed again to say that they're now better, they can go to a normal school, then it's a struggle for the parents to get their child into a normal school. Because I know of a few children that was, the parents was told that the children can attend a normal school now, and some of the children are still at home because the normal schools don't want to accept the children. But they don't say that, they just say that the schools are full. So we also need to look into that, Chair. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm trying to make notes there, and I'm sure Mr. Coetzee is making notes as well. Member Walters.
Chair, Member Christian's earlier in his input, there was something there that specifically concerned me, not about him or his input, but the scenario that he was painting. And then also what I found interesting, the response of the department where they said they're not correctional services. I think both those remarks showed me that it's not merely a safety issue at schools, it's the penetration of gangsterism and the real threat that it has for children and teachers. I think it goes beyond a normal safety plan. So I was quite satisfied with the answer from the department in as far as you can see they're trying to grapple with it, but it's not their core business. At the same time, it's also perhaps not this committee's core business. So I'm going to try to frame it in such a manner that, well, I'm hoping to pick this up in my committee as well. But I think we should get feedback as to what extent the department has the capacity to provide, call it expertise input at schools affected by gangsterism, where there's a real threat to people. So I think we should get the information just to understand whether they have that capacity. And then secondly, I would just word it like this, a recommendation that if possible, school safety is also taken up in the memorandums of understanding between the different tiers of government. I think it's helpful in this committee. At the same time, I think it's also something that my committee must take up, but it would be good if we collaborate between committees and work in tandem. Thanks.
Right, thank you very much on that. Is there general support for these sentiments that have been expressed by members of the committee? Perhaps a bit of a thumbs up there, just to test to see if you still know how to use your thumbs up mechanisms.
I don't have one, Chairperson. I'm making it out loud.
Oh dear. Okay. I see Mr. Coetzee.
Chairperson, it was my attempt to get the thumbs up. Sorry about that.
Okay, so I think we generally in agreement with the comments that have been made here. I see Member Christians, and I think Member Walters and Member Stevens are I assume, and Kaiser Philander. So I think we are all in agreement there, and I think I'm just going to return to you, to Mr. Coetzee. Is there anything further that we should be dealing with right now, or that we could be dealing with, other than moving to adjournment of the meeting?
Chairperson, nothing from my side. I will assist Wasima as soon as she's back, and we can just draft these resolutions into a more language-friendly manner, I would say.
Excellent. So I think there it appears to me that we are at 15:55, and I believe we can then adjourn the meeting and I think have a great afternoon. Thanks everyone for your contributions and being with us today. I'm very glad that we finished within 2 hours. So enjoy the afternoon. The meeting's adjourned.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Chair.
Chair. Thank you, members.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mary.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. You stop the recording, huh?
Yes, I hope so. It stops by itself in any case.
Okay.
Okay,
See,
bye.
bye.